Hi, my name is Bhavesh Nayak with aware.com. That's AWAYRE.com, where presidents, CEOs, and executives of successful business organizations go to be the best business philosopher their business has. About a week ago, I sat down with a good friend of mine, Mal Bass with Global Executive Forum, to talk about a range of issues. Our conversation ended up centering around the overall theme of what I call the importance of being human in business. Some of the topics we covered were how modern management theories developed in the time of industrial revolution ignores our innate humanness, why it's important to acknowledge and nurture what makes us human in business management, what lies behind some of the post-COVID and pre-COVID employee engagement trends, what role all of this plays in managing remote employees post-COVID, and how Hero's Journey, a fiction writing formula, ties it all together. Towards the end, Mal even got me to talk about something I don't like to talk much about, my COVID story. What follows is the conversation in its entirety. Hope you find it useful and let us know below if you have any questions or comments. Thank you for watching.
Well, hello to everyone, and it is our great pleasure to have my longtime friend Bhavesh Naik with us this morning. So, how are you today, Bhavesh?
Hey Mal, good to see you. Hi, I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm okay. So I know we both started out as engineers,
Yes, we did.
electrical engineers.
Electrical engineers, yes.
But somehow I'm doing this, and you're in a different business now, but we always keep an element of that engineering with us. But kind of tell us what led to your transition.
Yeah, well, as you know, Mal, I'm a recovering engineer or a recovering techie, as you say, and I sort of got here by accident. If you remember your college days, I'm sure when you went to college, you had to take these classes. There were humanities classes. There were requirements for even for the electrical engineering degree, where we were supposed to, or we were required to study the history of the world, and there were some electives, psychology and things like that. And as you probably remember, most of us didn't want to take them. We wanted to do the cool techie stuff. We wanted to do the engineering stuff, the hardcore stuff, and that we always saw that as sort of a distraction. But I was one of these weird kids. I did like engineering. Now I like the technical aspects of things, but I also loved those humanities courses. And I was so if you look at a typical day in my college days, I would be sitting in a technical class like electromechanical systems or probability and statistics and those kinds of things, and then I would walk over to the next building and we would study about psychology and history of the world and things like that. And so the humanities aspect of it fascinated me. And then my first job was with IBM, and we were working in, back then, I don't want to date myself, but it was a long time ago, years and years ago, when I started out with IBM. I was in artificial intelligence. And it was a burgeoning field. It was very new at the time. And so I always I was very fascinated with this, the human aspect of things and how the civilization has evolved and how we ended up dealing with technology and the human aspect of things and how they sort of interlace with each other. And today we are in this world where artificial intelligence is on the horizon. Maybe it's actually here for all practical purposes. So that brings us at a very interesting juncture. So the reason why I do what I do, which is I actually work with a little bit, backtrack a little bit. I work with business owners who have built very successful businesses. These are 20 employees, 50 employees, 100, 500 employee companies. And they have, the customers are great, they love them, The communities, dazzled. They've done some really great things. But the owner of the business, the president, the CEO of the business, has an issue, which is that they get involved in running every aspect of the business. They get pulled into the minutia of running the business. They get involved in every aspect of running that business. And it's not always just that, lack of delegation and things like that. The roots of the problems, that specific problem, are very deep. So, and they do a number of things. They implement technology and they automate things, and they study leaders and leadership. They read books. They follow gurus, and they do motivational speaking. They follow motivational speakers, and they take training classes and things like that. And they get better. All these things help them, really help them. But that doesn't fix that problem, which is, how do I build a scalable business on autopilot that is self-sustaining, that's self-perpetuating, so that the business owner can step back and do the higher level of thinking in a real way. And so I help them come up with, so the idea there is that there is something missing in the way that we've been managing our people. And for probably thousands of years. And we've tried to reinvent that in the last couple of hundred years. But what my studies show and my work in the field, what that shows is that hasn't worked out too well. We have built these computers, the giant supercomputers. A computer like this used to take a football field back in the days, like 60s and 70s, which is now in the palms of our hands. And we have put man on the moon and bringing him back. Now we're talking about going to Mars. So we've done all of these advancements the last couple hundred years, but we still manage our people the way that we did when we built the pyramids, or when the Egyptians built the pyramids, or when the Romans built their cities, which is basically, essentially, own those who work for us and use fear to get them to do what we want them to do. So that's how we manage people. That hasn't changed much. In fact, that actually got probably systematized a little bit in the industrial era, about 150 years ago. So what I help these business owners do is build what I call a philosophical foundation under the success of their business that would allow them to engage their people in a very, very meaningful and deep way. And then interlace that with the systems and processes in their business, so that they can truly build a scalable organization that they can step back from and watch it grow. That doesn't mean that a lot of these people don't want to retire. They don't want to exit. They don't want to just sell and, or some of them want to go IPO, but they don't necessarily want to exit. That's not what drives them. What drives them is to do something meaningful, leave something meaningful for the future generations. So that's how I got into this. That's what I do. So simple question from you, Mel, and that's a long answer. Hope that answers some of that, some of what you were.
That was great.
You're searching for. Yeah.
You said in a better way some of the things I've thought about, and so I understand. I've heard you use the term hero's journey and how that might apply to marketing and sales. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, the hero's journey is I love that formula because it ties everything in a business. I mean, this ties everything in. It doesn't matter what size of business it is. If it could be Joe the plumber, or it could be Walmart, but especially the people that I work with the mid-sized business, which I believe is basically the engine that drives the economy. But hero's journey, it actually comes from the world of fictional writing. Hero's journey is you have someone, so us human beings, we all share something. And what that is that some aspect of our life, all 7 billion of us, there is some aspect of our lives that we're not happy with. Something is bothering us, something is not right. And what we do is we push it down and we kind of ignore it for a long time. And then somehow, somewhere, we are forced to deal with it. So hero's journey is a formula where you have a hero or heroine who is dealing with some issue, and they're basically in a comfort zone. If you watch some of the movies, whether it's Harry Potter or Godfather, the opening scenes are, in the beginning, everything is a comfort zone. Your protagonist, right? In Godfather, by the protagonist is not necessarily the Godfather himself, it's Michael Corleone. Anyway, but that person is in a sort of a comfort zone, and there's something deep within them that they haven't dealt with, and they get an invitation to explore that aspect of themselves, and things break loose. So and they go on this adventure, this journey. They call it the hero's journey. So, and to resolve that, and it takes twists and turns. And so the invitation comes from either an event, or someone basically approaches them and say, hey, you're dealing with this, Harry Potter, yeah, he's living in his uncle's closet, right? He's not happy, but he's in a comfort zone. And an invitation comes from an owl who delivers a mail and says, I have something for you that's much better than this. But he says, no, that's okay, I'm fine. He doesn't believe it. He goes back into his cocoon. So this invitation comes, and the hero goes on this journey to resolve this issue. And it's a journey within, really. They want to make it also a journey as an analogy. They want to make it a journey out that's external to them. They go somewhere and go from here to there, but really it's an internal journey where they uncover the layers within themselves that they didn't know that they had. So for a customer, or for a business, a customer is a hero. I love this analogy of kind of looking at the customer as a hero, and then we are probably that event or that person who kind of approaches them and says, I know you've been dealing with this, and I have a solution for you. So it applies with the customer and the vendor type of relationship, but it also applies with the boss and the employees. Every employee is on a hero's journey in some way, shape, or form. And there's one aspect of their lives that the manager or the boss can kind of help you along and be the coach, be the mentor, and be the guide, basically. So it brings together a lot of these things in a business, and it goes into marketing, it goes into sales, and it goes into copywriting, and it goes into developing sales pitches and presentations, but it also goes into the vision and the mission and the purpose of a company, the collective purpose of the company, and then that can sort of water down, that can trickle down into the rest of the organization.
Well, that's interesting. I've also heard you use the phrase human-based management, and it seems to tie right into what you're talking about there.
I think it does, because we've loved stories. Our history as human beings is of emotions, not intellect. So, going back to we were talking about this idea of the evolution of management philosophy or management theories. Back in probably in the 1900s or so, there was a major movement. The American civilization went through sort of a revolution. We call it the Industrial Revolution. The whole world went through Industrial Revolution, but it was more prominent in the U.S. So, and from the U.S. came these philosophies in management, and some of them are called. Most of us have to study these. MBAs will definitely recognize this. They call time motion studies. Some names, very famous name, the one famous name that comes up over and over again, comes up again and again, is Frederick Taylor.
Sure, yeah.
And they did these studies, and based on that, they built management philosophy, management methods or theories. And what they did back then was, at the time, we were fascinated with machines. And what we wanted to do was get the maximum productivity out of the people. And we wanted to make everything work efficiently and smoothly. So we thought, what at the time we thought was, any human element that's there gets in the way of efficiency and productivity. So we try to get rid of that. We try to basically get rid of emotions. So, you're not supposed to have emotions, right? Because when you're emotional, you're not showing up at work in a kind of state that is productive. So we started taking out what makes us human, our desires, our purpose, what we are passionate about, and sometimes we express these things. So we feel things. I don't think that you have to commission 12 PhDs or 1,200 PhDs to kind of, people have done studies like this. People have put electrodes in people's brains and say, well, do we have emotions? Well, it's a it's a phenomenon that you can actually experiment with yourself and find out for yourself. Do we feel? Yes, we do. So there are emotions. As a human being, we have emotions. So what these the industrial age theories did was they took out what made us human. And we focused on two things, basically, in our management. One was behavior, and the second was intellect. So there's many faculties in us. And basically, we took out most of them, and we said, well, let's keep intellect and keep behaviors and manage our people according to that. Guess what? What else is there that it has only intellect and behavior, but no other dimensions? It's a robot, right? So we basically try to make our people into robots. And so if you read books, if you go to Amazon, search for management books, you'll find 300,000, something like that, very big number, 100,000 books. So it's safe to assume that there's a lot of these books out there, a lot of theories, a lot of philosophies, but they all, my study, my research basically tells me that they all agree on this basic principle, which is that a human being should be, in management, human being should be basically two-dimensional. So two-dimensional person, which is intellect and behaviors, and just manage those. Nothing wrong with that. I think they're important, but there are other aspects of a human being. So, and we've taken them on. Because of that, we have not, we're not running, there was a Gallup study that was done, and it's a bit old now, 2016. I hope they revise it with this COVID and everything. But they were saying that most organizations run at 33% efficiency. So if you have 6 people working for you, there are 2 people who are producing well. There are 2 people who are just kind of coasting and sitting, hanging around. And there's 2 people, two people out of the 6 are actively working to undermine the work of the other 4 people. So it's, we're not, so we haven't really done a good job managing our people and educating our leaders and our managers in building organizations that manages humans and a human aspect of things. And when you actually tap into that, when you engage them, this is more relevant with COVID, because people are remote workers now, and they don't. This is why some of the people are reversing those trends. And they're saying, "Oh no, I want you here because I want to see you. I want to see you type something on the computer," because they don't know how to manage them. So when we engage them to their depth, and in my study, I actually look at there are 7 faculties that we have, each human being. We're ignoring 5. You only focus on 2, because that they're not engaged. There is another trend that you might have read, Mel, which is that people are quitting in record numbers. People are not going back to work, and because that we have this very strange employment issue where people can't find good employees anymore, because people they just found out. They stayed at home for a year, and they found out that, hey, that was a soulless, horrible work that I was doing, and why am I doing it? So anyway, bringing the human element back, and there is a way to change this, which is to bring that human element back into our management processes. I call it organizational habits, building habits that involves and integrates, fuses actually, the human aspects into our processes. So that process, because process is a mechanical thing. When I bring in the human being into that, the whole human being, not a fragmented human being, into that process, that comes alive. The process comes alive. And then we become not only efficient, we become a better organization that can, and for the people that I work with, it makes them scalable. It makes them self-perpetuating. It can go on without one person being at the center all the time. People become more empowered, and they take on the organization takes on a life of its own, and it can go into directions that the owner didn't think that it could go into.
Those are great thoughts. It just made me think of a conversation we've had in the past about effective functioning in an organization that has ever-present problems.
Right.
Of course, as engineers, we used to like that. That's. But sometimes the problems are good. Sometimes they're not so good. So how does what you've said tie back into that concept?
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you think about it, all engineering problems are really human problems, isn't it? So the idea is that if you have a problem in engineering, it's because it's not solving a problem for someone. Because if you take all 7 billion of us and put them on Mars, and there's all these machines sitting here, they have no purpose. So their design, engineering is actually about servicing people and humanity and organizations and groups of people, community. So and the problem is, I think it's a wonderful thing, because there is this idea that we have a problem. We all have some aspect of our things, whether it's health, whether it's the home that we live in, something is not right, the car isn't working, or something is aching, my relationship, something isn't going right, something at work. We probably face lots of little issues right across the spectrum of our entire life. And those problems basically kind of compel us. The psychology of us is that most of us, probably all of us, want our life to be better than it is. So if there is an issue in some aspect of our life, we want a resolution of that issue, and we want to look for a solution. So subconsciously, we basically create an ideal solution. And that creates a gap between where we are and where we want to be. And that gap, the managing of that gap, is, I probably would call it the art of living, art of humanity, art of being a human. How do you manage that? I'm here in some aspect of my life, and I want to be there. So, and there is tension between that two. So if that tension is too much, it causes stress. If you don't believe that there is a solution, or the solution is already there, but we don't believe we can attain it, it's going to cause a lot of stress in our life. And if the tension between the two isn't great, and if it's not enough, then it causes complacency, and then we just kind of, apathy, what have you. So managing this, and that goes into hero's journey. The hero gets into this comfort zone because sometimes you're overwhelmed in all these issues that I had in my life. And someone comes along, some event happens. Sometimes we have to deal with it because we have to. An event shows up, a health issue, it becomes unbearable, and then we have to go seek help, or whatever. Employee issues. Someone, I've got 6 people, 2 of them are really not producing, and I ignore it for a long time. And then it gets to a point where you have to deal with that issue. So you have to either fire them, hire new people, or whatever it is that you need to do, or replace them. So, so that tension is very important to understand from building a business perspective also, because that's what our customers are going through, and that's what we can build our sales habits, our marketing habits, and everything kind of comes out of that. Understanding that hero that we're trying to help, and we're the guy.
That's a great point. That's a great point about it helps you be empathetic toward your customers.
Absolutely, yes.
I actually, in past leadership roles, somebody says I have a problem. I say, good. We'll get better in the process of solving it. But as you say, there's a crossover point when that might prevent them from being manageable. But it's
Yes.
that's a great point. I'm going to, as we wrap up here, I'm going to throw a curve at you there. But we've found that in these interviews that we get some really interesting responses when we talk about the pandemic. So how has the pandemic affected you and your business?
Well, my pandemic started a month earlier than most people. I was February 20th, 2020, 02/20/2020. I remember that day very, very clearly because I was sitting watching TV at night and I got a call from India because my mom was in India. This was not COVID related, but she was hospitalized and I had to fly out to India. She basically had a stroke. And I fly out to India and I spent about 5 weeks there. So for 4.5 weeks, something like that. And, long story short, we put her in a nursing home. Then I have to fly back. I flew back on April 20, I believe if the date is March, it's March 26th or March 25th, midnight. And it was an 11:50 flight. The last flight out of India was at midnight. So I made literally the last flight. If I had made the flight, I would have been still there 6 months later. So I think, Mel, like what this brought for us is a lot of us have gone through a lot of trouble and a lot of heartache. And I think that we, in a way, this is. I like to think of it as a positive. And if you can't think of it as a positive, for people who are listening, at least it's a cloud with a silver lining. I think that it forced us to get back into deep within ourselves and forced us to engage with that which is important to us. Who are we? What are my priorities? What am I all about? These are existential questions and we need to ask them. No one gets out of here alive at the end of the day. But so what is it that we take with us if we do take something with us? Or what's the point of all this? And there's a big questions. And I love those questions. I actually love answering and entertaining those questions. And so what it has done for my business is one of the things that I did was, and I have a slate of clients that I work with. I do a lot of executive coaching and I do group coaching and things like that. By the way, my business has been online for about 5 years now. So it didn't change things that much. I mean, I've done things on site and things like that got pulled back, but I just went online. But one of the things, when we were going through the shutdown, I started playing chess. What do you do with the free time, right? And I watched some TV shows. But then I started just kind of recording some of them. One of the things I wanted to do is create an academy of things that I've been teaching. Scaling the business. I help other people scale my business. I want to scale my own business, right? Cobbler's kids wear no shoes, right? So I took that time I actually started recording some of the things, and that's been very interesting, fun. I actually put my first course out. This is on sales. How do you sell without being a salesperson? And then I put together some strategies that I've taught, about 20 strategies, and put together in a course. There's much more to come. So I'm kind of excited about that. That's my COVID story. I was able to take something out of it. There's a loss, unavoidable loss. We lost a lot of friends in India and a lot of family members. So, but yeah, here we are. So, but it brings focus to what's important and what's meaningful.
Well, I see we're near the end, and I think this could go on for maybe another hour or so, but we thank you so much, and we wish you the best, and we look forward to a follow-up.
Yes, thank you. Would love to do it, and I appreciate what you're doing here. I think you're putting a lot of work into this, and I've always enjoyed working with you, Mel. We've done this. Hopefully we'll I remember the time we sat down in Virginia. We had that lunch. Then you came out to my office in Rockville, and
Sure.
Yeah, I kind of long for those days when we can actually, fearlessly move about and sit down
Yeah.
and it's simple things, right? That we used to do. We took it for
Right.
granted. Would love to do that again.
Here we are again. So thank
Yeah.
you, and look forward to staying permanently connected.
Yes, same here. Likewise.